Dr. Elena Rodriguez stared at the data scrolling across her monitor at the Deep Space Monitoring Station in Chile, her coffee growing cold beside her keyboard. The anomalous readings had started 3 weeks ago, subtle distortions in the cosmic background radiation that didn't match any known natural phenomena. At first, she dismissed them as equipment malfunction, but now, Dr. Rodriguez, her assistant, James Chen, appeared at her door. "The new data from the Australian array just came in. You need to see this." Elena pulled up the fresh readings and felt her breath catch. The distortions were no longer subtle. They formed a clear pattern now, one that spoke of massive objects moving through space at velocities that shouldn't be possible. And they were headed directly for Earth. "Get me Director Phillips," she said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation, "and contact the other major observatories. We need confirmation." Within hours, observatories around the world were reporting the same findings. Whatever was approaching Earth was vast in scale, a fleet of objects ranging from the size of aircraft carriers to one massive vessel nearly as large as Earth's moon. At the United Nations Emergency Security Council meeting 48 hours later, Elena found herself addressing the most powerful people on the planet. The chamber was silent as she presented the evidence. Based on their current trajectory and velocity, they will reach Earth in approximately 30 days, she concluded. The level of technology required for objects of this size to achieve such speeds can only mean one thing. We are dealing with an advanced alien civilization. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, General Sarah Zhang of the Chinese Space Force spoke up. "Have they made any attempt to communicate?" "No," Elena replied. "But we've detected energy signatures consistent with weapons systems far beyond anything humanity has ever developed. This is not a peaceful expedition." The room erupted in voices, but UN Secretary General Adebayo raised his hand for silence. "Dr. Rodriguez, what are our options?" Elena took a deep breath. "From a purely technological standpoint, we are severely outmatched. Their propulsion systems alone are centuries ahead of ours. However," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "humanity has always excelled at finding unconventional solutions when faced with seemingly impossible odds." In the days that followed, the world transformed. Ancient rivalries were set aside as nations pooled their resources and knowledge. Every satellite dish on Earth was repurposed to gather data on the approaching fleet. Factories were converted to produce whatever weapons and defensive systems the world's best scientists could devise. Supreme Commander Zarak of the Hegemony watched the tiny blue planet growing larger on his view screen with cold amusement. His civilization had conquered dozens of worlds, and this one would be no different. The primitive species inhabiting it had barely managed to reach their own moon. Their primitive radio signals still used electromagnetic waves, for ancestors' sake. Supreme Commander, his second-in-command, interrupted his contemplation. "We're detecting unusual activity on the planet's surface." "Oh." Zarak's secondary eyes blinked with mild interest. "They appear to be preparing defenses, primitive ones, but the coordination between their various nation-states is unprecedented for a pre-unification species." Zarak made a dismissive gesture. "It matters not. Our shield technology alone is beyond their ability to comprehend, let alone defeat. Proceed as planned." But back on Earth, humanity was doing what it had always done best, innovating under pressure. In underground labs and hidden facilities, scientists and engineers worked around the clock, analyzing every scrap of data they could gather about the alien fleet. Dr. Rodriguez hadn't slept more than a few hours at a time in weeks, but she couldn't stop now. She was close to something, a pattern in the alien ship's energy signatures that shouldn't be there. It was subtle, almost invisible, unless you knew exactly what to look for. "Dr. Rodriguez." James appeared at her door again, looking as exhausted as she felt. "The Defense Council is asking for an update." Elena looked at her screens, at the complex mathematical models she'd been running. Tell them we might have found something. A weakness, but we're going to need to think very, very far outside the box to exploit it. As the alien fleet drew closer, humanity prepared for the greatest fight of its existence. They were outgunned and outmatched by any conventional measure. But conventional thinking had never been humanity's strong suit. And in labs and command centers around the world, an unconventional plan was taking shape, one that would prove that technology alone does not determine the outcome of wars. Sometimes, the most primitive solution, applied with enough creativity and determination, can overcome the most advanced defenses. The warning signs had been clear. The threat was imminent, but humanity was not about to go quietly into the night. They would show these advanced aliens that there was one thing their superior technology couldn't match: human ingenuity. The first shots of the war weren't fired from massive alien warships. They came from a small research station orbiting Jupiter, where Dr. Marcus Wong had been testing experimental quantum sensors when the alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The sensors, designed to study quantum fluctuations in spacetime, registered something extraordinary. For a fraction of a second, as the alien ships transitioned to normal space, their shields flickered in a very specific pattern. "Elena, are you seeing this?" Marcus transmitted the data back to Earth, his hands shaking with excitement despite the dire situation. The quantum signature during their deceleration. Dr. Rodriguez, who hadn't left her lab in 3 days, immediately understood the implications. The shield harmonics. They're not constant. There's a pattern to the fluctuations. But before they could analyze the data further, the alien fleet made its first move. 3 smaller vessels accelerated toward the Jupiter station. Marcus barely had time to transmit his final data packet before energy beams lanced out from the alien ships, vaporizing the station in a brilliant flash of light. Supreme Commander Zorak watched the destruction with satisfaction. A primitive observation post, nothing more. Begin the main advance. The hegemony fleet moved with precision, their formation spreading out to engage Earth's hastily assembled defensive platforms. Humanity's most advanced weapons, railguns, plasma torpedoes, nuclear warheads, splashed harmlessly against alien shields. In the United Nations Emergency Command Center, General Zhang watched the initial exchanges with grim determination. Status report. Orbital defense platforms Alpha through Delta are destroyed, her aide reported. Our weapons are having no effect on their shields. Lima Base reports their experimental particle beam didn't even register on alien sensor systems. But in her underground lab, Elena Rodriguez was smiling. Every alien attack, every shield activation, provided more data. The pattern was becoming clearer. She opened a secure channel to the emergency command. General Zhang, the alien shields aren't perfect. They operate on a quantum frequency that fluctuates in a predictable pattern. It's why they dropped out of FTL where they did. They needed specific background radiation levels to stabilize their shield matrix. Can we exploit this? Zhang demanded. Not with conventional weapons, Elena admitted. But what if we didn't try to overpower their shields? What if we synchronized with them instead? The next alien attack targeted Earth's largest military installations. Energy beams capable of vaporizing cities struck their targets, only to find them empty. Humanity had learned from the Jupiter station's destruction and had evacuated all obvious military targets. Zorak's frustration grew as reports came in. The humans were proving annoyingly difficult to pin down. Their military responses were uncoordinated, almost random, yet somehow they always seemed to be one step ahead of his tactical computations. Supreme Commander, his tactical officer reported, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the planet's polar regions. They appear to be attempting to generate some kind of planetary shield. Zorak's primary eyes narrowed. Impossible. Their technology is far too primitive for planetary shielding. Destroy those installations immediately. But as the alien fleet moved to attack the polar facilities, they encountered something unexpected. Earth's magnetic field began to fluctuate wildly, creating interference patterns that played havoc with their targeting systems. In her lab, Elena watched the data streams with growing excitement. The alien shield technology relied heavily on quantum field manipulation, which meant it was vulnerable to certain types of interference. Earth's magnetic field, properly modulated, could create noise in their shield frequencies. "It's not much," she explained to General Zhang over a secure channel, "but it's forcing them to constantly adjust their shield harmonics. Each adjustment follows the pattern we discovered, and with each adjustment, we learn more about how their technology works." Zhang finished. "Clever, but we need more than interference. We need a way to fight back." Elena's eyes gleamed. "That's just it, General. We've been thinking about this all wrong. We don't need to overpower their shields. We need to synchronize with them. And thanks to Marcus's sacrifice, we now know exactly how their quantum field generators work." As the alien fleet positioned itself for what they assumed would be a final, decisive strike, humanity was preparing its response. In labs and factories around the world, quantum field generators were being hastily constructed, not to create shields, but to create something the aliens would never expect. The humans were outmatched in every conventional measure of military power, but conventional warfare had just gone out the window. The real battle was about to begin, and it would be fought on terms the aliens never imagined possible. Supreme Commander Zarak was about to learn that sometimes being technologically superior could be a disadvantage. The more complex a system becomes, the more ways it can be disrupted by someone thinking outside the box. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was unconventional thinking. General Sarah Zhang stood in the newly established Quantum Defense Command Center, deep beneath the Himalayan mountains. The holographic display showed the alien fleet's positions, their ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns that spoke of centuries of tactical refinement. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. "They're so predictable," she mused, studying their formations. "Every move calculated, every response based on optimal mathematical models." Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her quantum field calculations. "That's their weakness, General. They rely too heavily on their advanced technology, on their algorithms. They'd forgotten how to improvise." The plan they had developed was audacious, perhaps even insane, but those were humanity's specialties. While the aliens expected a desperate last stand using conventional weapons, humanity had something else in mind entirely. Throughout the solar system, mining ships that had been harvesting asteroids were now moving into position. These vessels, originally designed to break down space rocks for their mineral content, had been hastily retrofitted with the newly developed quantum field generators. "First phase is ready," Elena reported, checking the incoming data streams. "The mining ships have mapped the quantum signatures of every major asteroid in their sectors. We can begin on your order." Zhang nodded. "Execute Phase 1. Across the solar system, the mining ships activated their modified equipment. Instead of breaking down asteroids, they began to alter their quantum fields, making them resonate at very specific frequencies that matched the fluctuation patterns of alien shields." Supreme Commander Zarak was preparing for his final assault when his sensor officer reported something strange. "Commander, we're detecting unusual quantum field activity throughout the system. The humans appear to be attempting to communicate with the asteroids." Zarak's secondary eyes blinked in confusion. "Impossible. Their technology can't possibly manipulate quantum fields at that level. Ignore it and proceed with the attack plan." But the humans weren't trying to communicate with the asteroids. They were turning them into quantum resonance weapons. As the alien fleet began their advance, the modified asteroids began to vibrate at the exact frequencies of the alien shields, creating cascading harmonics that grew stronger with each passing moment. Energy fluctuations detected in all shield systems, Zarak's engineering officer reported, anxiety creeping into his voice. "The harmonics they're synchronizing with our shield frequencies." Elena watched the data streams with intense focus. "The resonance is building. Their shields are trying to compensate, but they can't adjust without following the pattern we discovered. Each adjustment just makes the resonance stronger." The first alien ship shields failed catastrophically. The quantum field collapsed, creating a brief but brilliant flash of light. Then another and another. The perfect formation began to break apart as ships desperately tried to avoid the quantum-corrupted asteroids. But Phase 1 was just the beginning. As the alien fleet scattered, avoiding the weaponized asteroids, they found themselves being herded into new positions where Earth's modified magnetic field was strongest. Phase 2, John ordered. Elena entered the final commands into her system. The massive electromagnetic generators buried beneath Earth's polar regions powered up to full capacity. But instead of trying to create a planetary shield, they began pulsing in a very specific pattern. The humans are using their magnetic field as a carrier wave. Zarek's science officer realized too late. The quantum resonance from the asteroids. It's being amplified. The alien fleet's perfect formation had been reduced to chaos. Their shields, normally impenetrable to any conventional weapon, were being undone by the very quantum principles that made them work in the first place. Impossible, Zarek muttered, watching his fleet's carefully calculated attack plan dissolve into disorder. Their civilization is too primitive for this level of quantum manipulation. But humanity had done what it always did, taken something simple and turned it into something revolutionary. They hadn't tried to match the aliens' technology. Instead, they had found a way to use that very technology against itself. Phase 3, Jean commanded, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Across Earth, thousands of small quantum field generators activated simultaneously. Each one was crewed by alien standards, barely able to create a stable field. But they weren't trying to create shields or weapons. They were adding their own frequencies to the quantum resonance cascade, turning the entire planet into one massive quantum disruption engine. The alien fleet's superior technology had become their greatest vulnerability. Their shields couldn't be lowered without exposing their ships to attack, but keeping them active meant being subjected to the escalating quantum resonance. Elena watched the sensor readings with a mixture of awe and satisfaction. It's working. Their shield harmonics are completely destabilized. They can't maintain their formation or target our positions effectively. The unconventional strategy was working better than anyone had dared to hope. Humanity had turned their apparent technological inferiority into an advantage, using simple principles applied in ways the aliens had never considered possible. The real battle was about to begin, and for the first time since the alien fleet had appeared, humanity had more than just hope on their side. They had a fighting chance. Supreme Commander Zarek stood rigid before the command deck's viewport, watching his fleet's carefully orchestrated attack plan crumble into chaos. Ships that had never known defeat were now struggling to maintain basic functions as the quantum resonance cascade tore through their shield systems. "Order the fleet to withdraw and regroup," he commanded, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "We'll adjust our shield frequencies and—" "Impossible, Supreme Commander," his science officer interrupted, breaking protocol in his urgency. "The humans have matched our quantum frequency patterns perfectly. Any adjustment we make follows the mathematical progression they've already mapped. They're not just matching our shield harmonics, they're predicting them." On Earth, in the Quantum Defense Command Center, Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the alien fleet's disarray with grim satisfaction. "They're starting to understand," she said to General John. "Their technology is so advanced that they never considered someone could use basic quantum principles against them. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one." But victory was far from assured. The alien ships, though struggling with their shields, were still the most powerful vessels humanity had ever encountered. And Zarek was not about to accept defeat at the hands of what he considered a primitive species. "Launch the quantum torpedoes," he ordered. "Target their polar magnetic generators. Without those, their resonance cascade will collapse." The alien fleet launched their attack, but this time they found humanity ready. The thousands of small quantum field generators scattered across Earth's surface suddenly changed their output patterns, creating a complex interference web that scattered the torpedoes' targeting systems. "Now," General John commanded, Execute Operation Slingshot. Across the solar system, the modified mining ships began their next phase. Instead of just altering the asteroid's quantum signatures, they started using their gravitational tractor beams to move them. Hundreds of space rocks, all resonating at frequencies matching the alien shields, began accelerating toward carefully calculated points in space. Alina's fingers flew across her console as she coordinated the asteroid movements with the Earth's fluctuating magnetic field. The quantum resonance is amplifying their gravitational signatures, she reported. The aliens' sensors will read them as much larger objects than they actually are. The strategy worked better than they'd hoped. The alien fleet, their sensors confused by the quantum interference, began evasive maneuvers to avoid what they thought were planet-sized threats. Their perfect formation, already disrupted by the shield problems, broke completely. "They're splitting up," Zhang observed, "just as we predicted. Their tactical computers are trying to calculate optimal escape routes. But there aren't any," Alina finished. "Every path we've left open leads them exactly where we want them." The alien fleet found themselves being herded into a complex three-dimensional grid of quantum-resonating asteroids. Each evasive maneuver only took them deeper into the trap. The resonance grew stronger as the ships were forced closer together, their compromised shields beginning to interact in ways their designers had never anticipated. Zarak watched in growing horror as his ship's status reports grew worse. "This is impossible," he muttered. "Their technology is primitive. Their weapons are ineffective. Their ships are barely spaceworthy. How are they doing this?" The answer, of course, was pure human ingenuity. Unable to match the aliens' advanced technology, humanity had instead found a way to use it against itself. The very complexity that made the alien ships so powerful had become their greatest weakness. "Final phase," Zhang ordered, her voice steady. Alina activated the last set of commands. The quantum field generators on Earth, the modified mining ships, and the resonating asteroids all synchronized their outputs. The resultant quantum cascade created a ripple effect through space itself, catching the alien fleet in a web of their own shield harmonics. Ship after ship began losing power as their quantum field generators overloaded, unable to maintain shield integrity against the resonance cascade. The mighty vessels, each one capable of destroying entire planets, were being undone by basic physics applied in ways their builders had never imagined possible. "Supreme Commander," Zarak's tactical officer reported, panic evident in his voice, "we're detecting power surges in all systems. The quantum resonance is penetrating our secondary containment fields. If we don't shut down our shields, we risk total system failure." But lowering their shields would leave them vulnerable to conventional attacks, and humanity was ready for exactly that moment. Around the planet, missile silos opened. Fighter jets took to the skies. And in orbit, the last of Earth's defensive satellites repositioned themselves. The moment of truth had arrived. Humanity had found a way to neutralize the aliens' greatest advantage. Now came the part they had always done best: fighting against the odds with everything they had. The turning point of the battle had arrived, and with it, the chance to prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology, but its ability to think beyond conventional limitations. The vacuum of space lit up with thousands of explosions as Earth's conventional weapons finally found their marks. With their shields compromised by the quantum resonance cascade, the alien ships were vulnerable for the first time since their arrival. In the Quantum Defense Command Center, Alina watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and determination. "Their shield generators are completely destabilized," she reported. "They can't maintain quantum coherence under this level of resonance." General Zhang nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "All defense forces, engage at will. Concentrate fire on their weapon systems." The battle that followed would be remembered for generations as the moment humanity proved its worth to the galaxy. Earth's fighters, though primitive by alien standards, swarmed the larger vessels with precision and coordination that no tactical computer could match. Every pilot knew they were fighting for the survival of their species, and they flew with a determination that no algorithm could replicate. Supreme Commander Zorak watched in disbelief as his mighty fleet was slowly but surely dismantled by what he had considered an inferior species. How? He demanded of his tactical officer. How are they beating us? The answer came from an unexpected source. His science officer, who had been analyzing the humans' attack patterns, spoke up. They're not thinking like a spacefaring civilization, Commander. They're thinking like survivors. Every solution they've implemented has been based on turning our own technology against us rather than trying to match it. Aboard his flagship, Zorak faced a decision that would define his legacy. His fleet was in chaos, their advanced technology rendered nearly useless by the humans' innovative tactics. The quantum resonance was spreading through his ship's systems like a virus, causing cascading failures in even their most basic functions. Supreme Commander, his second-in-command reported, "We're detecting power fluctuations in our main reactor. The quantum interference is affecting our containment fields. We need to withdraw." But withdrawal meant defeat, and defeat was something Zorak had never accepted. "Prepare for a final assault," he ordered. "Divert all power to weapons. We'll destroy their civilization, even if it costs us our ships." Elena, monitoring the alien fleet's power signatures, saw the change immediately. "They're going for a suicide run," she announced, her voice tense. "They're diverting power from their containment systems to weapons." General Zhang's response was immediate. "Activate the quantum pulse generators, all of them." This was the moment they had been preparing for, humanity's final card to play. The thousands of small quantum field generators scattered across Earth's surface suddenly shifted their output, creating a synchronized pulse that rippled through space. The resonating asteroids amplified the effect, turning the entire solar system into one massive quantum disruption field. The effect on the alien fleet was catastrophic. Their already destabilized systems, pushed to the breaking point by Zorak's desperate final gambit, began to fail completely. Ships lost power, their advanced technology unable to function in the face of such fundamental disruption. Supreme Commander, Zorak's engineering officer, called out in panic, "We're losing containment on all systems. The quantum cascade is penetrating our core shields." For the first time in his long career, Zorak felt something he had never expected to experience: respect for an enemy he had underestimated. These humans, with their primitive technology and limited understanding of quantum mechanics, had managed to defeat his fleet not through superior firepower, but through innovation and determination. In the Quantum Defense Command Center, Elena and General Zhang watched as the alien fleet's formation completely collapsed. Ships began powering down their weapons, their commanders choosing survival over destruction. The mighty Armada that had arrived to conquer Earth was now at the mercy of the very species they had come to subjugate. "Open a channel to their flagship," Zhang ordered. When the communication link was established, she spoke with quiet authority. "Supreme Commander Zorak, your fleet is disabled. Your technology has been neutralized. You have a choice: surrender and live, or continue this fight and be destroyed." The silence that followed seemed to stretch for eternity. Finally, Zorak's voice came through the comm system, carrying with it the weight of defeat and, surprisingly, admiration. "We surrender," he said simply. "You have beaten us not through superior technology, but through innovation we could not have imagined. The galaxy should have paid more attention to humanity's potential." As Earth's defense forces moved to secure the alien vessels, Elena turned to General Zhang. "We did it," she said softly. "We actually did it." Zhang nodded, a slight smile on her face. "We did it the human way. By thinking differently, by refusing to accept impossible odds, by working together. This victory belongs to all of humanity." The battle was over, but its impact would ripple through the galaxy for centuries to come. Humanity had proven that technological superiority alone does not determine the outcome of conflicts. Innovation, determination, and the ability to think beyond conventional limitations, these were the true measures of a civilization's worth. As the sun rose over Earth the next day, It illuminated a changed world. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious, not through overwhelming force, but through the very qualities that had allowed them to survive and thrive throughout their history: creativity, courage, and an unwavering spirit that refused to be broken.